Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great start of your week. My name is Garrett McLaughlin. The exercise of the week for this week is going to be medial to lateral jumps. So now we're talking a little bit more on the lines of plyometrics, jumping, landing, shock absorption, stability, right? A lot of different characteristics that we want to train just to make sure we're able to absorb force, we're able to stabilize with a higher level of force, and we can do so in different planes of motion, right? Most of what we do is always forward. So being able to move, to jump, to land, to strength train, to function in multiple planes of motion only helps us just really maintain or preserve, but also improve, again, function, stability, control through the hips especially, right? Hips, foot, ankle, all of these areas. Medial to lateral jumps is a very, in my opinion, entry-level plyometric drill. We're not working on, like if we think about lateral skater jumps, bigger, more explosive motions. It's a very controlled jump and land from one position to the next as we think about a few key things. First and foremost, we want to, and I'll start from the top down here, we want to really maintain position of the pelvis. So as I go from one side to the other side, you see a lot of people really dropping into the pelvis, right? We want to stay as level as possible because that's going to help us. And again, pelvis is important from top down, foot's important from bottom up, maintain good stability and alignment of the limb. Next thing we're going to focus on is alignment of the knee, right? So pelvis is going to dictate that to a degree, foot is going to dictate that to a degree, but we need to make sure as we jump and land, that knee is nice and stable, pointing straight ahead. For those of you with poor stability, you'll notice like, oh, I'm all over the place. My knee wants to collapse in and out. Instead of blaming the knee, let's work on improving stability and proprioception of the foot, improving strength of this hip, glute medius, control of the pelvis. Those things really work together to help reinforce good alignment down the chain there, or up the chain, depending on how you look at it, at the knee. So just to show you a couple repetitions, medial to lateral jumps here, I'll show you, we'll say 6 repetitions, 3 on each side. I'm finding my pelvis, I'm level. If I need to fix that and go into a hip hike to start, I can do that. I'm trying to be as stable as possible. So I like to think it's almost like there's glue on my foot, and as I hit the ground, that foot is just stuck, it's secure, it's really reinforced and pushed into the floor. At the same point, my pelvis remains level. You can see a little bobble there. My pelvis remains level, so I'm not dropping. I'm not reaching this leg behind, which causes that pelvic drop. I'm keeping alignment of my body. And I'm just going slowly from one jump to the next. I'm not rushing this. I see a lot of people who have bad balance are going to roll through their motion. They're cheating. It looks okay, but in reality, they're never stopping, right? So I want you actually to stop and hold that position for a few seconds. Stabilize, bend, and absorb into the legs. Nice and quiet. So before I jump, I'm completely still, right? I can hold here all day if I wanted to. I'm not quickly going to the other side, and I'm just working on my jumps. I usually go about 10 repetitions. This is something that you really want to maintain good quality on, so you don't want to go to fatigue. Doing 10 jumps or 5 per side, resting 30 to 60 seconds, and then going again. And making it should feel pretty low key. You should think, I can do more of those, I can jump further away, but really work on the quality. Another piece you want to focus on is really bending and absorbing into the leg. As we run, as we walk, right, there's a degree of shock absorption that happens throughout our joints and our muscles. We don't want to land stiff and really load up the joint. It's a lot of force coming up the chain. We want to land in a position where we're actually able to bend and load. Right? So if you just look at that from the side here, instead of landing stiff, you can see that's a little bit harder. It's harder to stabilize because nothing is really allowing me to sink into that position to use the muscles and the stabilizers to absorb force. I want to try to. So for runners that I have, or athletes that have trouble absorbing force, maybe they're very stiff and some of their injuries, aches and pains are just from pounding too much, teaching that shock absorption component can also be helpful alongside single leg and jumping, landing, and stability. So that's the medial to lateral jumps. Add this into your strength training program. This fits perfectly for most people in 2 ways. Either after your dynamic warm-up but before you strength train, after your dynamic warm-up or before you run, right? It's a good way to work on pushing off and exploding through the calves, landing, absorbing force, stability, alignment, balance, all of that. So that is the medial to lateral jumps. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to drop it below. And as always, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everyone.